TV. If you want to subscribe to Dr. Boyce TV, you can go to drboycetv.com. That's drboycetv.com. I'm not going to talk too long this morning because I have some other work I want to do. But I wanted to talk about something that was on my brain this morning. It had to do with the NCAA and this whole thing with Zion Williamson and Duke and in these big games that are coming on. And I think that it's important, as people of color, to kind of keep certain conversations in the forefront so that they aren't forgotten, so that we act like these, we don't act like these things aren't happening. I think it's very important that we keep our awareness up. In other words, I think it's important to be financially woke. So I want to say good morning to my intelligent Black people in the building. Let's see, I see Jimmy Pinette, Panetta, is that right? Panette, Ebrima and Jaquan, how you doing? Tony Allen, Lamont King, Robin Barnes, good to see you. Good morning. Do me a favor, if you want to shout out your city right quick. Let me know what city you're chiming in from. I'd love to see, where everybody's at and what you're up to and what's happening in your part of the world. And I'm going to share, while you do that, I'm going to text everybody who's in our tribe of intelligent Black people and let them know that it's going down right now, and that we're about to have another intelligent Black conversation about important Black issues. Abrima's from Silver Spring. I see Valerie Lulabelle from Vegas. Oh, Vegas, that'll get you in trouble. I like Vegas though. Actually, I remember doing an event in Vegas. I see Dr. Asha. Well, Asha, I can't remember if you're a doctor or not a doctor, but I'm just gonna call you Dr. Asha Terry because I think we just need to give Black people their props for whatever reason, even if they ain't got all the props yet. Like, I'm just gonna give you the props. So you've been granted an honorary doctorate from me. Anyway, let's see here. I see Houston, Texas, Albany, Georgia. Let's see, what other cities am I seeing? Let me flip over here. I'm gonna look at you guys over here on YouTube. Sorry if I can't see you on drboycetv.com. Let me see here on YouTube. Okay, I can't read the comments. Here we go. I see Fort Worth from LaMarcus, David from Indianapolis, Mario from Charlotte, Alejandro from Atlanta, Sosa Boy from Beantown, Boston. That's a racist city, man. That city. Whew, Lord. I hope you all got over that racism problem, because Boston's the trip. I remember when I was in Boston, and I just kind of remember just the way certain people acted toward me, being Black. But it was a long time ago. But I remember there was this Black man. What was it? Oh, there was a white guy in Boston. I don't know if you remember the story, but there was a white guy who killed his pregnant wife. And when he did what a lot of people do. He went to the police and said a Black man did it. And that's, I guess, because that's easy to believe, because we all like to believe that Black men will do anything horrible to another person. It just doesn't matter, because we're just some horrible people. And the police went through the city and they were terrorizing Black men for about, I think, 4 to 6 weeks, as they were sort of, looking for this imaginary criminal. Right. And this is why those stories, in terms of how media presents, Black men or Black men who've committed wrongdoing. The reason it matters is because they don't separate. You and I, Orlando and I, from, the R. Kellys of the world, So when you're blasting up somebody's face and you're saying this is the face of the predator, this is what you should fear, well, they're going to be scared of all of us. They're not just going to be scared of some of us. And the way you fall into that trap, the trap of believing that the racism doesn't affect you, is they say, oh, no, we're not talking about you. We're not talking about you. We're not trying to lynch and murder you. We don't want to cut your balls off. We want that nigga over there, right? But then the thing is that once they get done with him, they're gonna come after your Black ass. So Black people, I think, have to understand that what happens to some of us does affect all of us. It does not mean that, you go defending any idiot, coon, crazy man or horrible person out here, but it does mean you have to be aware. You have to be politically woke, financially woke, all kinds, just be woke, just wake up and stay woke. All right. So anyway, let's jump into this conversation. This has to do with what's going on with March Madness right now. So you guys might be watching March Madness and seeing, everything that's happening with that big game. I don't know. Tell me if you saw that big game with Duke and University of Central Florida. Did anybody watch that game? Anybody see that game? That game was I mean, hella intense. It was a great game. You know, Duke, lucky as hell. Oh, he into, oh, you from Louisville? Okay, I love Louisville. That's my city. But you know, so Duke got lucky. You know, the Angels, you know, white Jesus and black Jesus had to bless Duke for them to win that game because they were supposed to lose. Duke was supposed to lose that game. We know this. They were supposed to. When you're down by 3 points and there's 19 seconds left, you're not supposed to win. That just don't happen, right? However, Duke pulled it out. You know, they've been getting lucky for 30 years. But then again, maybe they got something special. I don't know. But anyway, it was a great game. It was an excellent game. If you're a basketball fan, you couldn't help but to love that game and really have a good time watching it. Now, here's the deal with that, right? Okay, so I'm watching this game, and I was sitting here and I was like, huh, this is so interesting. This is you know, this game is being featured on national TV, right? And anything on national TV is automatically leading to a massive financial windfall for those who are selling that television real estate. You know, those who are sponsoring whatever event is being promoted on national TV. You know, they're not making a couple of dollars here and a couple of dollars there. They're literally bankrolling like 30 million, 40 million, 50 million dollars for every single game. Right? They're not just making little chump change here and there. They're making insane amounts of money. Like they're literally making what would probably be the equivalent of LeBron James' annual salary, like every single game, right? That's how much money they're making, and they're making all this money, you know, for people who are not black. This money is not going into the hood. This money is not going, you know, to black people. This is not going to the mothers who gave birth to these amazing young stallion athletes who are out here putting on the best show on earth. You know, if you've ever seen Zion Williamson, you see that this guy is 280 pounds of pure muscle who can jump so high you think he's got rocket boosters in his feet. And in fact, he's got so much strength and so much power that he tried to make a cut during the Duke North Carolina game, and the Nike shoe just exploded off his foot. Literally, the shoe just exploded off his foot. That ain't never happened to me because I ain't never had that kind of power. But this man this young man is a amazing athlete. I mean, it's a hell of a specimen, just insanely talented, and deserves everything he's going to get as a result of the talent that God blessed him with. Now, let's be clear. This is why, and this will help you understand why I talk about the racial dimension of this NCAA issue. The NCAA issue is not just an issue of athletes not being compensated, right? We know this is true, right? But let's just be clear. This is a racial issue. And I'm going to break it down very quickly for you as to why this is a racial issue and not just, you know, just sort of a general issue of workers' rights or whatever. I mean, sure, it involves these things, but it's almost like the fact that blackness is an accelerant of injustice. Blackness is an accelerant of injustice. It's almost like when you think about somebody who has, say, HIV, and another person doesn't have HIV, and they both catch a cold. Well, you know, who's gonna get sick fastest? Who's gonna get sicker? The person that doesn't have HIV or the person who does have HIV, right? It's going to be the person who does have HIV. Why? Well, because the HIV is an accelerant because their immune system is weak. And as a result, when they are infected by a particular virus or bacteria, it's going to have a greater impact on them than it will somebody who's perfectly healthy. Well, blackness is a little bit like a socialized version of HIV. It is an accelerant of injustice. It means that if you have a white guy and a black guy and they're both faced with the same injustice, well, the black guy is going to get hit a lot harder. It's like when Tavis Smiley used to say, when America gets sick, black people get pneumonia, right? So it's an accelerant, right? So ultimately, with the NCAA issue, sure, there are white athletes. I have people say this to me all the time. I have people say, well, Dr. Boyce, why are you making everything racial? Because you know, it's not a racial issue. There are white players who aren't getting paid. But I need to ask you this question. Pay attention. Listen up. Intelligent black people will get this. Did anybody watch that game? If you watched that game, if you watched that great game between Duke and University of Central Florida, and I want you to reflect on, if you can't reflect, just imagine the key players in that game. How many key plays in that game were made by white guys? You know, seriously, there was one guy who was 7'2" who could dunk just literally by damn near standing on his tippy toes. I forgot his name, but he's a bad brother. And he was dunking by getting on his tippy toes and dunking. It was amazing. What was he? Was he white? Was he a white guy? He was amazing. Was he white? Zion Williamson, the 280-pound rock, 6'7", 280-pound rock that's literally all muscle, who went up against this big tall guy and was able to jump through the gym and score those last second points to help Duke win that game, which was a nail biter. Was he white? Was Zion Williamson? Is Zion Williamson? Is he white? Has there ever in the entire history of the NCAA, I want you to point to me, just one. You just gotta give me one. Give me one. Now remember, black people are 13% of the population, so this should be easy. This should be easy, right? For the people, for the racial deniers, the Bernie Sanders of the world who want to be race deniers, right? This should be easy. Give me one white guy who was the athletic equivalent of Zion Williamson. Can anybody tell me one white guy who has been the athletic equivalent of a Zion Williamson? There is none. You can't think of any. There are none. There's never been a white Zion Williamson. Look at Shaquille O'Neal, 7'1", 200 and something pounds. Could just float down the court like a deer, jump over everybody, pull down the backboard because he was so strong. Has there ever been a white version of a Shaquille O'Neal? Who's the white Shaquille? Who's the white Shaq? Anybody got a white Shaq? right. Somebody brought up Larry Bird. Larry Bird wasn't the white Shaq. He was the white Larry Bird. Bad boy. He could score his ass off, but he didn't have he had about as much athletic ability as this piece of wood over here. He could jump as high as a brick. That man had no athletic ability whatsoever, right? And you can go down the list. Has there ever been a white Michael Jordan? Who's the white Michael Jordan? Who's the what's that guy Anthony Davis unibrow? Who was the white Anthony Davis? I mean, the list goes on and on. Who's the white Charles Barkley? Round mound and rebound, fat as hell, could sprint down the court, jump over everybody, and just tear the rim down. I mean, has there ever been a white Charles Barkley? No, there has not. So what point am I getting to here? The point I'm getting to here is that when you look at the sheer dominance of the black athlete, when you look at the black athlete's contribution to the NCAA, when you look at what black athletes bring to the table, we know the game would not be the same without black people. We have something special in our DNA that ain't nobody else got. And let's just be real. I believe much of it came from the atrocities of slavery. I mean, we survived the Middle Passage. We are the survivors of the Middle Passage. We're the survivors of 250 years of the most brutal slavery in the history of the world. We're the survivors of breeding farms where they would take the biggest, strongest slaves and genetically engineer them to create bigger, stronger slaves in the next generation. We're the survivors of 100 years of Jim Crow, where we were lynched and castrated and mutilated just for owning a business or just for talking back to a white person, right? And then we're the survivors of the mass incarceration epidemic, where we have a probably 20, 30 times greater likelihood of being sent to prison than a white woman, even if we commit the same crime. So we've been through some shit. They say that that struggle makes you stronger. Well, shit, that's why we're the strongest people on this planet. Seriously. That's why there's no white Zion Williamson, because ain't no white man got in his DNA something that has been through what Zion Williamson's ancestors have been through. Hey, ADOS in the building. If you ADOS in the building, throw up the hashtag if you want to. If you are Tangibles 2020, throw up the hashtag. If you're us too, throw up the hashtag, because y'all know what I'm talking about. Ain't nobody been through in this country what black people have gone through. But I don't want us to just survive. I want us to start thriving. I want us to start prospering. There's no glory in just being the victimized survivor. I don't want to be the victim all the time. I want to be the victor. I want to be the winner, right? So it's time to take that next step. but it requires a change in thinking. If we do not change our thinking, then 100 years from now, we'll just have other atrocious stories to tell that will make us feel good about the fact that we survived so much. When the reality is that we shouldn't just be surviving, we should be overcoming and actually winning. Do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up button. If you have not hit the thumbs up button, I need you to do that. And the reason is because this brings more people into the conversation. This is a discussion for intelligent Black people. If you're not intelligent and woke or trying to be woke, then this is not the place for you, because this is probably just going to hurt your feelings and make you mad. That's what I do. So please hit that thumbs up button. Please share. If you're on Facebook, please share this video, because if you share it, other people will come in. Hearts, likes, just activity, comments, whatever it is you want to do. I need active participation here, not just watching. Also, if you want to get a text notification when we go live, text the word voice, VOYCE, to 31996. Text voice to 31996. Now, we're talking about the NCAA and their mass exploitation of Black athletes, leaning particularly on what happened in that Duke game. I think the Duke game and how great it was is an excellent landing point. It's an excellent starting point for a broader discussion about exactly how much wealth is being stolen from the Black community through the NCAA. Now, why is this important? Well, because right now we're having conversations about reparations. We're having conversations about reclaiming stolen wealth. This is a conversation that needs to be had. It needs to occur as a habit for the next 100 years. We need to be talking about the stolen wealth for our entire lives, and our children should be talking about it through their entire lives, and our grandchildren should be talking about it through their entire lives, and our great-grandchildren should be talking about it through their entire lives. So that means that you have a great-great-great-great-grandchild who's going to be living in the year 2200, and that child needs to be talking about reparations too, because you're talking about a 300-400 year process. You're not just talking about somebody who stole a bucket of chicken from you last month. You're talking about people who've been stealing from you for hundreds and hundreds of years. So the same issues that are relevant today, many of them will be relevant 100 years from now. I guarantee it. The same way many of you can read Souls of Black Folk, or you can hear a quote from Marcus Garvey, or Malcolm X can say something, or you can hear something from Harriet Tubman, and you can say, oh, I relate to that. That's very relatable to me. Well, that's because many of the same issues that Harriet Tubman faced in dealing with the Negro mentality are similar to the things that you're facing right now, dealing with that same Negro mentality. The same issues, they never go away. So this conversation needs to be had about the stolen wealth. So in particular, in terms of my interest in this issue, and I've been speaking on this issue, I've been very vocal on this issue for probably about 20, I would say now it's almost 24, 25 years I've been vocal on this issue. I started writing articles about NCAA compensation back when I was in grad school at the University of Kentucky. And at that time, we had a very good basketball team, and the University of Kentucky used to go to the NCAA championship every year, damn near every year. I mean, literally, I spent 3 years getting a joint master's in math and statistics. And during those 3 years, they literally played in the national championship 3 years in a row. I think we won 2 and lost 1 or something like that. And I remember at that time, there was this player there by the name of Antoine Walker, who is known now for being the guy that went to the NBA, made $110 million and lost it all. And now he gets to brag to his grandchildren about how he threw away what could have been $1 billion in wealth, in family wealth, because he was an idiot. But then again, though, back in the day, a lot of people, we would talk to each other. And a lot of people would kind of whisper among each other and say, well, I heard Antoine can't read. And I was like, well, if he can't read, he's probably not going to have a great future. The good things are not going to happen. Good things don't happen when you don't take the time to educate yourself. Seriously. But, and unfortunately, media drowns that out. Media trains you as Black men to want to be ignorant and to embrace ignorance. And then you embrace ignorance. Next thing you know, you're embracing slavery and exploitation. And now all Antoine can do is tell a story about how he made $110 million and flushed it down the toilet. Good for you. Congratulations, Black man. Way to go, bro. I'm very proud of you. So anyway, at that time, I remember a couple of interesting things happened. One, I remember when I would write these articles about why college athletes should be paid. And even back then at 24, 25, I was really well trained on a lot of things, economics. I was trained on racial issues. I was trained on mathematics, right? And I used to tutor this football player who used to come to me, and in the tutoring sessions, he would tell me why he didn't have time to study. He would tell me why he couldn't get his grade up in his math class. And I would say, well, why can't you get your grade up? He'd say, well, because I'm practicing so much, I don't have time to study. Now, this guy was a great athlete. He was actually predicted to go to the NFL. And so he was dedicating a lot of his time to football. But the reason he was coming to see me as his tutor was because his mother, he had a mother that kept him in the library. Like, unlike all the other star football players, his mother emphasized to him very early the value of education. That's why parents are so important in the educational process. You can't tell me that when a black child goes to school and doesn't get educated, that it's all on the teacher. No, the parent plays a big role in that too. If you don't believe the parent matters when it comes to educating a child, then you are a goddamn idiot. You are a fool if you really want to hand your child over to these white folks and hope that they're going to do what's best for your children. You're out of your damn mind. So this guy used to come to me and I would tutor him. And he would tell me about how he said, I'm constantly in a state of mental and physical exhaustion. He said, we get up in the morning, we go to the weight room. Then after that, we got to go to class. And then between classes, we got to go watch film. And then after class, and then after film, we go to more classes. Then after the final classes, we got to go to practice. He said, I'm constantly mentally and physically exhausted. Now, mind you, I'm just a regular guy. I'm just a regular grad student. I'm just a little nerdy guy who's trying to get an education. And I'm under a lot of stress, just trying to get through my classes. Now I'm sitting there looking at this brother. I'm like, man, if I had to do what you have to do on a daily basis, I wouldn't be able to make it. I don't even know if I could keep a C average because you're basically a professional athlete. You are a professional. I mean, they're putting the pressure on you of a professional athlete. And then he tells me, he says, well, I really wanted to major in engineering. And I said, well, why didn't you major in engineering? If you want to be an engineer, you're supposed to major in engineering. He said, well, my football coaches told me, now pay attention now. He said, my football coaches told me that engineering would interfere with my football schedule. And so they discouraged me from majoring in engineering. I said, did they discourage you or did they threaten you? He said, they pretty much threatened me. He said, they let me know that if I decided to study engineering instead of studying, general studies or whatever crap they had him studying, basket weaving, whatever the hell his stupid major was. He said, they let me know basically in so many words that if I did do that, and I had to miss practices, that I would not get any playing time because I would not be showing my dedication to the sport. So here you have a whole system built around treating these young athletes like they are professionals and discouraging them from getting an education, which sends them out into the world woefully unprepared to compete in anything other than dribbling a basketball or throwing a football. Now, some of them get lucky. Some of the guys get to go pro. That's about what, 2%, right? That's like a 1 out of every 100. But the other 99 are only doing God knows what. And here's the thing. When you're bringing an 18-year-old impressionable kid onto a college campus and they're looking to their coaches and their advisors for guidance, and the only incentive that these coaches and advisors have is to keep the player eligible so they can make money, and they're being driven by money, but the player is the only one being left out of the economic equation. How much justice is that? How fair is that? Right? So you're ruining a young man's life because you're trying to make more money, and he's not even getting the money that comes from the fact that you've ruined his life. Because here's the thing, I've seen a lot of athletes. I've been, the schools I taught at were big time sports schools. University of Kentucky, Indiana University, Ohio State University, which is a fucking football factory. That's what exactly, that's what the Ohio State University might as well be called the Dallas Cowboys because they put so much money into their football program. Like seriously, it's a big city, a big metropolis that has a football program in the middle of it. It's kind of crazy, kind of insane. Syracuse University. I was at Syracuse. In fact, I remember being at Syracuse, and I had this kid in my class, this quarterback. And the first week of class, I was teaching a very difficult finance class. It was a class for seniors that a big percentage of the students could not even pass this class. Very difficult class. So I get an email from some guy. I don't even know who it was. It wasn't a student, right? So I guess because he's an athlete, like he doesn't email directly. He lets the assistants email for him as if they don't know English and don't know how to type. And this person sends a message saying, so-and-so, I don't remember the guy's name. He was a white guy, nice kid though, very nice kid. But he says, so-and-so will be missing the first week of your class because he has a game. He has a game across in Utah, across the country, and he has to miss a week of classes. And I'm like, and whose problem is that? Like, why does that concern me? That's about you and your money. That's your business. That ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm teaching the class the way I'm going to teach the class. I said, so I would advise you to make sure that he understands that there are consequences for missing my class. I'm not going to allow everything to slide just because you got a game on ESPN and you trying to go get your money. And then the second week, I swear to God, this was the craziest thing. The second week, I get another email from this representative, some coach, advisor, I don't know who the hell the guy was. And he's like, so-and-so will have to miss the second week of class because we've got another game in California and we have to go. And I said, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. I said, number one, he can send his own goddamn emails. He's a grown ass man. He can email me himself. Every other student, when they want to talk to me, they email me directly. They come see me directly in my office. They don't have their representatives emailing me. If he's a professional athlete and he's getting paid and he's got a representative and assistant that's going to email me, that's a different story. But he's a college student. He's supposed to be a student athlete, not athlete student. The word student comes first for a reason, right? And I said, so I'm not taking any more emails from his representatives. I need to talk to him. I said, number two, just make sure you understand that there has never been a person who's missed 2 weeks of my class and passed the class. So you have basically, by using him like a circus monkey, taking him across the country to play in your game so you can make your money, you have pretty much guaranteed his failure in my class. You've guaranteed that this kid is not going to pass my class. I hope you feel good about yourself. And so then we get into the back and forth. I think he felt kind of bad and he starts arguing, bickering back and forth with me or whatever about it. And I said, you and I both know that this whole system is stupid and I'm not supporting this bullshit. So lo and behold, about 3 days later, he drops the class to go get another professor that I guess is going to allow him to fail. That's going to basically give him something that's easier to get through so that he can go and do his real job, which is playing football as a professional athlete for this university that's going to make millions of dollars from him playing in these games. Now, why do I tell this story? And I got 1,000 other stories like this. I share this story because there's nothing wrong with playing sports for money. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody, if you're an accountant, you get a degree in accounting and you go become an accountant and you make your money as an accountant. If you're an actor, you act in a movie, even if it's a bad movie. If people like it and they buy tickets, then you should get paid for that. The problem is that you've created this weird system where you got something that walks like a duck and talks like a duck and quacks like a duck, but you're trying to tell me that it's a buffalo. You're trying to tell the whole world that it's something other than what it actually is. The NCAA hypocrisy is not just due to the fact that the athletes aren't getting compensated. It's due to the fact that some people are making millions of dollars and some people are getting almost nothing. And the people making the money are the people who are not even doing the work. When I have more extensive conversations with this football player, because I got to know this brother, good guy, very smart guy. I said, man, this really is interesting and insightful to me to see, how many smart brothers there are who are being thrown to waste. How many multi-million-dollar assets for the Black community are being ruined by this system? How many brothers who, if they put the same effort that they put into football practice, were putting that energy into starting businesses, could become billionaires? How many of these young brothers who, if they put as much time into education as they put into basketball, they could be surgeons like Myron Rolle? How many brothers who have massive amounts of determination and intellect, the ability to analyze playbooks this thick? They know the difference between the West Coast offense and the East Coast offense and the nickel back, where the nickel back is located relative to the free safety and the blah, blah, blah. Like, they know all these things. They understand these complex ideas that you have to be able to analyze in a split second in order to play professional sports, which is what college sports is. It ain't college sports, it's professional sports. To play professional sports, you gotta be smart. You got to be able to, if you're a quarterback, you have to instantaneously break down the defensive scheme and understand what they're doing. Oh, they're not, they look like they're going to blitz, but they're not actually going to blitz. They're actually going to send the safety over this way so that they can actually double team the wide receiver on this side. Like, you have to be able to see all that, because if you can't see all that, then you lose, right? You don't win games, right? You don't get the championships, right? Like Alabama, when Alabama played Clemson, all they did was confuse the quarterback, right? That's how Clemson beat their ass. They would set up these complex NFL style defensive schemes that would make the quarterback think that they're playing man to man, when really the man jumps off his man and goes to the other man, and then he gets the interception and runs it back for a touchdown, right? Like it's real deep shit. It's shit it's like scientific type of shit. And this is not something that you can learn in your spare time. This is not stuff that you think that you just learn like when you're a weekend warrior. You gotta be NFL, NBA caliber with this shit. Like, you got to be dedicated. You can't go, it's almost virtually impossible to be a top level student and a top level professional basketball player at the same time. It's very hard to do. So what you're basically doing is you're taking all these amazing young Black brothers and you're ruining as many Black men in the NCAA as you're ruining with the prison industrial complex. Like, if you ever feel like, does anybody feel like this? Tell me if you agree. Do you ever feel like you look around the Black community and you just feel like something's missing when it comes to the men? Do you ever look around and you're like, where's the Black male version of Steve Jobs? Like, why don't we have where's the Black male Elon Musk? Where are the Black male billionaires and the Black male high-powered attorneys? Like, there's a couple of them out here. There's a few, right? There's a few, but there should be thousands of them. There should be thousands. If you're looking for Black men who can dribble basketball, throw a football, or rap, then shit, you never run out of people. Your supply will never run out, right? But do you ever look around and you say, like, where are the men that that can lead the communities and lead families, or if you're a woman, any women going out and you're dating and you're like, where are the brothers that are husband material? Where are they? Right? I know where they're at. I've visited them. They are in two places. They've been ruined by sports, by the false dream of professional sports. My friend coaches AAU kids, and he says that he's appalled by how many short little midget kids come in and their parents think they're going to be professional athletes, so they're not even learning how to read because they think they're going to get to the NBA. But you're like, wait a minute, your son's only going to grow to be 5'9", so how's he going to make it to the NBA? That ain't going to happen, right? So they're either ruined by sports or they're sucked up in the prison industrial complex. Like, ladies, I'm telling you, when I went up to visit, I visited this guy named Mario Lloyd, who was facing 14 life sentences for a drug conviction back in the 80s. And when I was in that prison, I saw so many strong Black men, and no homo. I'm not attracted to men, but these were good-looking dudes that I was thinking, wow, that guy could date my sister. That guy, he looks like he could be a damn fashion model, right? So you got all these like husband eligible men who would have been great husbands and fathers in another life. In a parallel universe, they're married to a Black woman, raising beautiful Black kids, running a great Black business. Maybe they're doing surgeries. Maybe they're practicing law or whatever. But in this world, they're in prison like animals. And you never meet these men because you don't even know that they exist. They're the forgotten society. And so what you have to understand is that these systems, the reason that the NCAA exploitation, which is just like mass incarceration, is a Black and a racial issue, is because it's ruining your Black men. It's taking your Black men who could have been multimillionaires and turning them into nothing. Some guy goes to University of Alabama and plays 4 hard years for Nick Saban. Nick Saban walks away with $10 million a year, whatever he makes. And this kid walks away with nothing. He ain't got no money. He ain't got no education. He ain't got no relevant skill half the damn time. He can't even get a job at the University of Alabama as the wide receivers coach. They're like, well, we thought you were great when we could use you, but now you're just another nigga who graduated, who came and played for 4 years, joined the club. There's thousands of them. Who gives a shit? And so at the end of the day, I think that, we have to understand this is a racial issue, because at least $1 billion a year is being taken from the Black community by the NCAA. Do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up button. Take a second, please. If you're on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up button. If you're on Facebook, please hit hit hearts and shares and likes. Please share this to your page. It's very, very important. Also, I want you guys to know this podcast, Dr. Boyce TV, is on iTunes. So if you have iTunes and you want to download iTunes and SoundCloud, actually. So if you want to, check it out and listen while you're at the plantation or on your way to your cousin Nim's house, then feel free to go to SoundCloud or iTunes and you can download. Also, if you want a free e-copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, you can go to drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net. So my interest in the NCAA issue, which links to what I saw with Zion Williamson and all that, is basically threefold. One, I have strong interest in this issue as an educator. I've been teaching college students for 25 years, 26 years now, I guess. I lose count. It's a long time. And I've just, seen how many times there are athletes who, under the pressure of trying to be a professional athlete and go to school, don't end up getting the education they deserve. If they were pushed to put as much energy into education as they put into sports, they would be fucking Rhodes Scholars. I swear to God. You look at the intensity it takes to be a professional athlete. I don't have that intensity. I ain't gonna lie. I played middle school football. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. I was the backup running back and the free safety. And do you know why my coach did not put me in the game? I swear, I'm not making this up. He did not put me in the game because I could not memorize the plays. I could not learn the plays. So I'd be sitting there and they'd be practicing, right? And I'm the backup running back. So when the offense is practicing, I'm sitting on the side, and as the offense is running, the offensive plays, and I'm not listening. I'm not paying attention. My brain I'm like the 8-year-old, our 8-year-old in the house. She's like this too, like just kind of off in her own little world. That's me. I was off in my own little world. And so the coach says, "Boyce, come in." And I'm like, oh shit, I gotta go in. So I would go in and I line up as the running back, and he says, okay, run the 44 blast. And I'm like, what's a 44 blast? Oh man, I don't know what it is, right? So the quarterback lines up, and the quarterback's like, set, height. And the whole offense goes left, and I went to the right. And that's when the coach pulled me out of the game, right? So here I am, I'm a PhD, right? Which makes me smarter than most people, more educated than most. Only 1% of the population has a doctorate. I'm talking about a real doctorate, not those like weekend internet doctorates that people are getting. I'm talking about like a real PhD. And here I am telling you that I didn't do well in sports not because of the physical. I had good physical gifts. I can actually run the 40-yard dash pretty fast. This is another little secret. I'm just telling maybe I'm even bragging here. Did you know in high school, I raced the fastest guys on the football team? I didn't play in the high school football team, but all the football players came out for track. I was captain of the track team, and we all raced to see who would be on the relay team. And do you know that I ran the 100-meter dash, and I beat all the fastest guys on the football team? So the football coaches really wanted me because they saw I had muscles. I was big and strong. I was fast as hell. So of course they wanted me to play football, but there's a couple things. One, I couldn't understand the plays, and two, I didn't want to get brain damage, right? Even back then, I was like, I don't want to get hit in the head over and over again. That just don't seem like it's going to work out too well for me, right? So that was my sports experience. So when I see these guys that are playing, professional sports at the college level, they're playing professional sports for the University of Tennessee, playing professional football for Alabama, playing professional basketball for the University of Kentucky, I look at those guys and I say, wow, these guys are so smart. They're so focused. They're so intense. But they are so unlucky. They are so cursed in many ways. Many of them, not all of them, many of them, because they're putting all their energy into something that may not pay off. You see, when I talk about investing, one of the things I always tell you guys about when it comes to investing your money or your time or your love or anything is investing. And all investing really is taking something that's valuable to you and putting it into something and then getting something greater in the long term, right? Like you put your money aside into a stock or a bond, and then a few years later, it grows into more money. So your wealth grows as a result of your investment. Well, there are some investments that are bad, like a bad relationship. Like if you invest in a bad marriage, married to the wrong person, and you give them your love, your heart, your time, your youth, 6, 7 years later, you're walking away feeling like shit because you're like, damn, I didn't get any. I put 8 years into this thing. I have nothing to show for it, right? Or you invest in a bad business and you give, 3,000 hours of hard work and $50,000, of money that you barely had, that you had to come up with over time. And the business fails and you walk away feeling like, man, I have nothing to show for it. Well, college sports has become kind of like that for about 90% of the athletes. They put all this time, all this energy, all this dedication into playing sports. And they learn a few lessons about hard work and dedication and stuff like that. Sports teaches you a lot about setting goals and all that. That's why I'm glad I played sports. But when you're done, if your goal was to be in the NBA and you don't make it to the NBA, or your goal was to make it to the NFL and you don't get drafted by the NFL because the NFL ain't got enough spots for everybody, then you end up as a 25-year-old with bad knees and a 5th grade reading level and brain damage to go with it, and maybe a weed or pill addiction that comes with the crazy culture that exists within sports. Sports and hip hop culture overlap. Both of those cultures are very toxic for Black men, destructive for Black men. Right? Excessive womanizing, that's where you get STDs and babies mamas. Throwing your money up at the club, that's how you go broke. Getting into all kinds of stupid situations with stupid people, that's how you end up in prison, right? Walking away from education and embracing ignorance, that's how you grow up dumb, right? So you're 25 years old and all you can do is now you're supposed to be stepping into a new space in your life. Now you're supposed to be Mr. Husband, father, super dad, community leader, and you can't do none of that shit because you just a brother trying to hustle to make up for the dumb shit you did when you were in your early 20s. Do you follow what I'm saying? Do you hear what I'm saying? Are y'all hearing me? Ali G, are you hearing me? Stop asking if it's live. It doesn't matter if it's a fucking recording. It doesn't matter, Ali. It doesn't matter. Even if I was recorded, the message is still the same. Do you understand what I'm saying? A Black man should not be spending his 30s making up for dumb shit he did in his 20s. A Black man should be living in his 30s and his 40s off of the investments he made in his life when he was in his 20s. He should be prospering in his 30s and 40s because he made boss moves in his 20s that positioned him for long-term success. So when you have all these men going down the track of sports and entertainment and everything else and all the other nonsense that exists in the world, then we are doing a huge disservice to the community because the Black women ain't doing this. Black women, we know we could spend time talking about the challenges that Black women face and the mistakes some Black women make, but Black women one mistake they ain't making is they're not all giving away their entire future for some stupid dream of playing sports or being a rapper. They're not, I'm not saying it's stupid. I'm sorry. If you're a rapper in the room or you're an athlete, I'm not dissing you. I'm just saying that you're being sold a white supremacist lie. You're being sold a bunch of shit. And what it does is a little Black boy and a little Black girl are born at the same time. They're both little babies, both being raised by good parents. So the little boy grows up, when he's 6 years old, they put a football and a basketball in his hand. And God bless this poor kid if he has the curse of being able to jump high or run fast, or if he's tall for his age, because then suddenly, like motherfucking vultures, these goddamn AAU coaches and everybody else and these college scouts are gonna start jumping all over him and pressuring his mama. Why, when your son coming out for football? Is your son gonna play football? Is your son, oh, he's tall. Do you play basketball? You so tall, you so athletic, blah, 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 blah. So he buys into this, right? Because he's being rejected at school. The little white teacher ain't teaching him nothing. So he thinks that sports is his thing. So he starts dedicating all his energy into playing sports. Not much of his energy is going into education, right? So he's growing up and he's an athlete. And then it becomes, maybe if he's really unlucky, he embraces the whole stereotype of the dumb jock. So he sees himself as a great athlete. So if you're a great athlete, I mean, why should you learn how to read? You're an athlete. If you're a great athlete, why should you learn how to respect women? Who fuck these hoes? Like I'm an athlete. I get to have all the women I want, right? If you're a great athlete, why should you think about anything in the future other than the fact that you're going to be the next LeBron, right? Now the little girl ain't getting all this. Little girl is growing up. She's never been fed a lie about being a professional athlete. She's just told, like, you know, like be smart, go to school, study hard if you want to be successful. So she's coming up at the same time as him, right? And she's being raised in a way where she's being taught to invest in a long-term future that is more reliable than this black male. She's being given a future that is going to lead to success and prosperity. He's being given a future that's going to lead to disappointment, misery, pain, and agony because, well, number one, the odds are already stacked against him. You think you're going to be the next LeBron? Do you understand that LeBron is a statistical anomaly just for the fact that he's 6'8" tall? Do you know what percentage of the male population grows to be taller than 6'8" tall? Let me see. Let's look at this. Let's see here. I'm trying to Google this literally. Do you know that I would be willing to bet you, I know it's got to be less than 10%. Let me see. What percentage of men grow to be above 6'8"? I'm going to Google that now. Hit the thumbs up button while I Google this. I'm going to find this for you. I'm going to find this. Okay, the 95th percentile. Let me see. Male, pay attention now. Listen to this. So this kid thinks he's going to be the next LeBron. All right. Okay. All right, motherfucker. You think you're going to be the next LeBron? Okay. Good for you. Let's see what happens with that. Males were on an average weight of 171 pounds and an average height of 5'9". So the average male is 5'9". 5'9". When I used to go back in the day, when I used to play a lot of basketball, I played basketball a lot. The guy who was 6'2" was the center. He was the tallest guy on the court half the damn time. If a guy came out and he was 6'8", you wouldn't even want him to play. You wouldn't even play against him. You'd be like, what the hell are we supposed to do with this big giant son of a bitch? Like, we don't know what to do with a 6'8" guy. Somebody tell me that. If you know that, if you are tall or you know somebody that's tall, tell me how weird it is when a 6'8" guy walks in the room. Everybody turns and looks. Why? Well, because it's so rare. Nobody does that when my little 5'8" ass walks in the room. I'm just average height. Well, I'm not even average. I'm slightly below average. That sucks. You know, but seriously, did you know that only 5% of the male population is above 6'1"? Did you know that? Is above 6'1". Let me see. I'm looking at it. They got standard deviations and stuff on height. This is crazy. This is insane. I was making a point, but the point is actually being made even greater. In fact, it's so extreme. I don't even believe what I'm looking at here. I'm looking at the data here. Literally, only 3% of the population is above 6'3". So again, and also ladies, you should just know that. Like, I've met women who said, back in the day when I was much younger and I was looking for like somebody to date, and I tried online dating like 20 years ago, a long time ago, and I would literally meet women who would say, I'm sorry, but I only date men who are above 6 feet tall. That's cool, but only 7% of the population is above 6 feet tall, right? So most men are not even 6 feet tall. There's only 130,000 men in the United States. Now, a country of 360 million people, only 130,000, which isn't even like 1/10 of 1%, are 6'6" and taller. So when you grow up as a young black boy thinking you're going to be the next LeBron or whatever you think you're going to be, just know the odds are already against you just by virtue of the fact that you're probably not going to be tall enough to be in the NBA. So the black male, going back to the example I was giving you before, the black male, little black boy, little black girl are both raised. They're supposed to be spouses, right? In a perfect world, they grow up and they meet each other at the club or at the library when they are 28 years old, and they're supposed to be married and start having kids and produce for the next generation. Well, the black boy is going down a different path. The black girl's going down the standard path, right? She's looking forward to her wedding day. She's being educated. She's being taught, good values by her family. The boy, maybe he's being taught good values, but he's also got a lot of influences in media, in the world. He's listening to rappers telling him that he's supposed to go out here and run around with a bunch of women and waste all his money and just get into shit, and that his future is in the NBA. So why should he think about anything else? Because he's either going to be a baller or a rapper or whatever. So he maybe if he's lucky, if he's in the top 1% or 2% of athletes, he plays college sports. And then if he's in the top 2% or 1% of college athletes, he gets to the NBA or NFL. And then, but the thing is with the NFL, unfortunately, the average career span of an NFL player is less than 3 years. So the NFL is not, it doesn't stand for National Football League. It actually stands for not for long, because you're not going to last very long, right? So now this guy, if he's unlucky, if he makes mistakes like Antoine Walker did, now he's not the next LeBron. He's not in the NFL. He's not doing anything. He didn't get a record deal. Now he's 25 years old. And now the girl is 25, and they're going to meet when they're 28, right? He's 25 years old. He's dedicated everything to investing in sports, and it did not work out. Now, maybe he's depressed. Anybody ever seen how pathetic a former athlete can get when he put everything on a professional sports career and it did not work out? I'm not dissing. I'm just giving you all the facts here. Have you ever seen how pathetic or how sad a brother looks when he loses his whole identity, when he dedicates everything to sports and then the sports dream doesn't work out? Has anybody ever seen that, what that looks like, how sad that is? It's very sad to watch. It's very sad to watch. In fact, there's a likelihood of ending up with an alcohol addiction or a drug addiction or just extreme depression. Like, has anybody ever seen that? How sad that is? I mean, when you see those guys that used to think they were going to be the next LeBron or the next superstar in the NFL and it doesn't work out, and they're like drinking all the time or they're on drugs, that's depression. That's a suicidal person. Why? Well, because they dedicated everything to sports, and when sports didn't work out, they lose their whole identity, because white people gave you your identity when you were 7. White people and their systems, systematic racism, which is what all these NFL and NBA little leagues really are. That's what they represent, is systematic racism, because you're mass marketing this idea that a black male is only good if he can dribble a basketball or throw a football. That's why they told LeBron with Fox News, when LeBron started speaking on political issues, the lady said, shut up and dribble. Because they're like, look, all we need black people for is to entertain us. This goes back to slavery. It's nothing new. And so this guy, he's supposed to be prepared at 28 to be a good husband and a father to this black woman. But and so look at this. So they're 28 now. Now she has gone to college. She has made good decisions. She has worked hard for many years. She's made the right investments in her life. So she's ready for marriage now. Now her clock is ticking a little bit, and her friends are getting married, and she's looking for Mr. Right. She's got a nice job or something, maybe with a consulting firm. She's making $90,000 a year, and she's about to be promoted to associate or to partner or whatever the hell little trinket they give you in corporate America, right? So she's been putting money in her retirement. Her student loan debt is paid off a little bit, and she's trying to make good decisions for her future. So she meets this guy. Now this guy has spent his whole entire life giving all of his energy to a dream that didn't work out. He took the half court shot and the shot missed. He missed the half court shot. So now he's got nothing. He went to college. He didn't get an education because he spent all his time on the football field or the basketball court. Maybe he's got some physical ailments, some brain damage, etc., from all the hits he took playing football, bad knees or whatever. Maybe a drug addiction from painkillers he was taking so that he could stay on the field and do whatever he had to do in order to keep his football dream alive, right? Because he didn't get an education, he doesn't have any relevant skill that will allow him to get a decent job. He can't go work for the same corporate office that she works for, because he has a degree in general studies from University of Alabama. So how's he going to go and do this? He can't compete with this black woman. So his income is lower than hers. But she's like, okay, I can try to make it work, and I'm going to try to lower my standards. I don't want to be too uppity, right? Because she feels bad that she's looking down on him, or because he doesn't have shit to offer her, right? Oh, and then on top of that, maybe he was messing around with a bunch of hoes in college, right? He was getting it in, like that's what you're told to do, right? You're black. black male. So you're supposed to be putting your penis in anything that moves, right? So, you know, he pledged to frat in college, and while they were stepping and barking and drinking and all that, he ran through a couple hundred women, got a couple of STDs that he will gladly pass on to her when they start having sex. And he's got a couple of babies mamas to go with it. Now the babies mamas ain't cheap, right? Babies mamas are expensive. Babies mamas, they demand their cash because you got kids. You're supposed to take care of your kids, right? So the babies mamas are like, even if he gets ahead, even if he gets a little bit of extra money, even if he finds a decent job making some money, most of that money is going to go back to him taking care of little families, little mini families, little microwave families he created in the past. So he's 28 and he's coming with hella baggage. He's coming up with hella baggage. And God forbid if he got into some real shit, you know, like something that, you know, gave him a criminal record. I'm not even gonna put that in there, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? So basically, either she looks at him and sees him as an inadequate choice for a husband and father. If she's smart, she'll say, I don't want my kids raised by a man who has nothing to offer them, who can't provide and protect and do the things a man's supposed to do. Or he feels like he's inadequate. He feels like he can't match what she's doing. Well, gosh, she got that, you know, you got that corporate job and you making all this, you making more money than me. And that just kind of makes me feel weird. And that, you know, so that's why he's running off with the side chicks and all that, because he's got the insecurities that come with the fact that you a fucking man and you can't even match your woman. So you're feeling like less of a man. You're feeling inferior in this relationship, partly maybe because you kind of should, not because you should feel bad, because we know things are hard for a brother out here. But the thing is that we know things are hard for a brother out here, which means brothers should be extra prepared for the challenge, not underprepared for the challenge. So you came underprepared for a fight where the odds are already stacked up against you. So your odds of winning can get pretty low. It can get pretty grim. It can get pretty ugly. And so instead of like getting married and having kids, maybe they fuck for about 3 months and make another baby or something. And so he ruins her life too. Right. So what I'm saying to you at the end of the day is that sports is when the impact of sports and the lure of college sports and the mass marketing of the athletic dream to a young black male has implications that go far deeper than the financial. This ain't just about the money. This is about the loss of value that is far grander than just what happens to your bank account. This is the loss of a significant social value. This is the destruction of young black men who are literally trillion-dollar assets to the black community that are being extracted and exploited and destroyed by a system that lures them into nonsense. Hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button. We're talking about NCAA exploitation, but we're talking about it on a deep level. We're talking about it from a racial angle, economic angle, and an educational angle. Y'all know me. I don't do shallow conversations. If you're looking for something shallow and quick, you should go somewhere else. Again, this is a space for intelligent black people. If you want to participate and support the growth of our media platform, we reach 1 million black people a week. I want to reach 20 million black people a week. So with your help, I believe one day we can do that. Maybe not 20 million, maybe 5 million, but I believe we can have an impact because I believe these ideas are real. These are things I've thought about for 20 something years. And I think that if we lay these out to a large audience, I think we can change thinking. So with your help, I think we can do that. So if you'd like to support the platform, please go to intelligentblackpeople.com. That's intelligentblackpeople.com. Also, if you'd like to learn about money, you guys know I'm a finance professor. We have a great introduction to the power of money class in the Black Business School, and that is at blackmoney101.com. That's blackmoney101.com. So when I talk about, so we're talking about Zion Williamson and Duke and the NCAA and everything else, and how sports leads to a net destruction of black families. For those who make it work, like I saw my friend Etan Thomas in here earlier. Etan is a guy that I think made it work. He's a great man with a great family. He invested his money. He made smart decisions. But I believe Etan was successful because Etan jumped off the grid. Etan jumped off the track. Etan didn't fall into the nonsense that a lot of athletes fall into during college. Etan made sure he got an education. Etan prepared himself to be a good husband and good father, and that's what he is now. Now he's doing well, financially and otherwise because he made good decisions. Many black men are not doing that, and that's the issue. So when I look at the NCAA issue and the NCAA's mass exploitation of the black community, the NCAA's racist extraction of over $1 billion in wealth from the black community every year, I see it from an educational standpoint. As a college professor, I've watched how many athletes are not getting educated as a result of their extreme sports schedules. And it's by design, because if they really wanted the athletes to get educated, they would put somebody like, say, me, who, in charge to make sure the athletes were putting their classes ahead of sports. But instead, they get somebody who puts sports ahead of their classes. I see this as a finance professor. Unlike most people that talk about most educators that talk about these issues in media, this is why it was so dangerous for the NCAA. Unlike other educators, I could actually break down the money. I could break it down and say, actually they're claiming they're not making a profit, but the reason they're not making a profit is because they've got a model that centers around protecting a bunch of institutions that are technically nonprofit. But nonprofit doesn't mean you're not making money. It just means you're taking the money and you're buying new libraries and paying for the fucking women's soccer team and all that shit. So Title IX and all these regulations they put in place are designed to exploit the Black athlete, to compensate and to take care of white athletes and white institutions. Right? The women's soccer team and the women's volleyball team would have no budget if it wasn't for men's basketball. So basically, I became very interested in this issue from a financial standpoint. And I said, my God, they're raping these young brothers. They're raping the Black community. And then also, most importantly, I saw this issue as a Black man. I see this as a huge insult to Black people, almost to the point where the NCAA is among all the other institutions that owe reparations to Black people. Like the NCAA has profited handsomely from the star power of the Black athlete in really unethical ways. And I think that players should be made aware of this. I think their families should understand this. I think as a community, I don't really know about boycotting. When we talked about boycotting the NFL, I didn't feel as passionately about that as I would feel about boycotting the NCAA, because at least the NFL is cutting checks to these dudes. Like at least the NBA is paying their employees. The NCAA is not doing that. So, when they said boycott the NFL, I was like, oh man, damn, I kind of like football, but I started watching the AAF, the Alliance of American Football, to feed my football fix. But I didn't feel strongly about boycotting the NFL. Because the NFL didn't, Kaepernick took a knee with the NFL and they punished Kaepernick, but it became more of an employee grievance issue than it was actually a civil rights issue. Because if Kaepernick was really going to stop police brutality, I felt that he should, in every city he went to, go and hold a rally to deal with the local police in that city, right? Like deal with the police. Like I didn't understand. I never heard of a case where the NFL went out and beat a Black man, arrested and beat a Black man to death. Like I didn't hear about that, right? So it became a little bit confusing, to be honest with you. Doesn't mean you shouldn't have boycotted the NFL, and I did participate in the boycott for the most part, but at the same time, it just didn't make any sense. It was very weird. It seemed like an issue between Cap and the NFL, which was resolved when Cap got that, when they cut him a check and Nike cut him a bigger check. So Cap is going to be fine. So, okay, the grievance is over. I think that there should be something else beyond that should be, kind of discussed that helps us really get to the heart of the issue. Now, when you talk about the NCAA and Zion Williamson and all this stuff, one thing you guys may not know about is CBS Sports. Just to show you an example of how deep the exploitation runs. CBS Sports, in order to maximize their ability to make money off Zion Williamson, actually created something called the Zion Cam. Now, the Zion Cam literally is a camera that follows Zion Williamson everywhere he goes. Right? They literally were like, this Negro is making us a gang of money. Zion will probably make the NCAA at least $100 million this year. And that's like at a minimum. I bet it's probably like $250 million or something. Like Zion's going to make them crazy amounts of money. So they were like, okay, well, we're going to create a Zion Cam so we can really, really milk the shit out of this cow. He's a cash cow. And so they got the Zion Cam going on. Also, in case you guys read a recent report, there was a report that said the NCAA, I got the report right here, just this year surpassed $1.1 billion in revenue for the first time ever. So their money's going up every single day. They make most of their money during March Madness, and they make more money than the Super Bowl. March Madness makes more money than the Super Bowl. Because March Madness extends over several weeks. The Super Bowl is only one day. One day Super Bowl makes a ton of money for corporations and advertisers and networks. But March Madness is much, much better because you have dozens of games spread over several weeks, and you can charge massive amounts of ad revenue per game. In fact, the cost of a 30-second ad during March Madness is between $1.4 million and $1.7 million. So if you consider that during the game, they have about 10 to 15 timeouts, TV timeouts, and all this other shit, like all these different commercial breaks. And in every commercial break, they're showing 5 or 6 commercials. So they're making several $1 million every single commercial break. And not one of those pennies is going toward the athletes. I remember when I was in college and I had this really terrible, annoying, horrible girlfriend. She was terrible. It was really just a great example of how bad relationship choices can just make you miserable. And I learned from that. But anyway, I was dating this really horrible girlfriend. She was so ugly, just a really bad person. But she had this aunt. This aunt was a cool lady, and this aunt was a basketball coach. And I remember, and she was a coach for the women's team. And I remember that they were in the car one time and they were bringing an athlete to campus, right? So they were driving this athlete to campus to show her around the campus. And the athlete says, "Gosh, I'm really hungry." And my girlfriend at the time was in the car with her aunt and this athlete driving them to campus. And so she had a bag of Skittles. So she reached over with the bag of Skittles and said, "Here, would you like some of my Skittles?" So the athlete, is happy, that my ugly, horrible ex-girlfriend was handing her the Skittles. And so she reaches out to get some Skittles, and her aunt says, "No, you cannot give her Skittles. That's a violation of NCAA regulations." And I was like, "What? You mean giving the athlete a Skittle is a violation of NCAA rules?" She said, "Absolutely." I said, "Damn, that's insane. That's crazy to me. That's pimping. That's pimping, right?" So the NCAA really, if you really look at it and you look at it from a human nature standpoint, the NCAA is really just a pack of pimps. You just don't call them pimps because they're organized pimps. They're like the federation of local pimping, right? Like how the pharmaceutical companies, we don't call them what they are, which is a bunch of damn drug dealers, right? That's what the big pharmaceutical companies really are. They're drug dealers. They be serving them things, they get them hooked. And the difference is that unlike the drug dealer on the corner, they can extract a whole lot more money out of you because they're organized with this shit. This is organized crime, organized exploitation. So if you ever really want to fuck somebody, you don't fuck them in a random fashion. You fuck them in an organized fashion, strategic, mechanized, automated fuckery, right? That's what the NCAA becomes. That's what big pharmaceutical companies have become. It's organized, structured exploitation, like white supremacy, like racism, for example. And I'll go back to the point here, but racism is not scary when it's like one crazy white woman across the street who calls you a nigger. That doesn't bother me. I don't really care. I don't really care what the hillbilly down the street thinks about me, right? That's not a big deal. That's sort of, spot point, kind of like, okay, the racial animosity, whatever you think, whatever. No. The big demon in America is structured, organized racism. That is organized crime. That is like a RICO conspiracy where everybody gets together and they all collude to all come together and make sure Black people are oppressed and Black people have no opportunities, right? Then you're dealing with some shit. Then you're dealing with like industrial level, like competition in terms of finding a way to get around this shit, right? Or like you look at even the Michael Jackson thing, right? Like Oprah is like all determined to protect victims by interviewing these people that are exposing Michael Jackson, right? Even though for years they never said anything happened, but then suddenly they're all saying these things, right? And there's no proof. The FBI investigated, Michael's found innocent, but that don't matter. It don't matter, right? Oprah's going and she's like, I'm going to protect the victims by exploiting what this dead man did to these people, right? Even though dead men don't molest nobody, right? A dead man isn't a very good child molester, right? You have to kind of like have certain requirements to be able to molest somebody, I imagine, like being alive, like you have to be alive in order to molest a child. You can't do it from the grave, right? But it doesn't matter. Oprah is going to protecting the victims because she's going to go interview Michael Jackson's accusers and that's going to serve justice around the world. That's bullshit. No, the exploitation, the molestation, the real dangers in the world are mass-produced, organized molestation. It's structured molestation. It's industrial strength molestation. When you got Hollywood pedophile rings that are organized, where they got like managers and accountants and computer systems and processes designed to literally bring people through, bring little children, like literally we're going to go through the whole entire globe and find like mass produce, like find thousands of children that we can pull through this pipeline, so we will never run out of children to molest. Like, it is going to be structured, it's going to be organized. We're going to have, like, we're going to have dummy corporations set up. It's going to have this like elaborate structure that allows us to just molest as many children as we possibly can, because we're going to do it at an industrial level, right? The Jehovah's Witnesses, just today, there was like a big expose on how they, for many years, decades, kept records and documentation on how many children were being molested through their system. The Catholic Church, industrial strength, industrialized, mechanized, organized crime, like organized molestation of children, right? Like, that's where the damage is done, right? The damage is done when you mass produce something, right? Not when you sort of do it in a haphazard way, or when you do it in a one-off sort of way, right? Like that's a lot tougher. That's why I told Black people on the flip side of that, when you want to fight white supremacy, you can't just fight it one by one. You can't fight it by having one Black superhero every now and then, or one great Black leader that you think is going to do it all by himself, or one movement, or one situation, or one fight. No. You have to have the mass production of whatever it is you need in order to win that battle. You must mass produce. You must mass produce. That's why the white man got his foot on your neck. It's because he's always mass produced the things that he needed in order to win. He mass produces corporations that go throughout the world and make as much money as possible. During World War II, he was able to mass produce guns and bullets and ships and tanks and jeeps and airplanes to go over and take down the Nazi regime, who actually had the best weapons. The Nazis invented the first jet airplanes, but didn't matter. We had so many airplanes thrown at them, they couldn't fight us off. They'd have one airplane for every 20 that we had, right? They have the best tanks, but we just mass produced our tanks, so they couldn't stop that, right? So ultimately, at the end of the day, what you're talking about with the NCAA, this is going back to the NCAA, is that when you talk about pimping, you're used to the simple model, like what you saw in the MAC, like one dude like sitting on the corner with some bell bottoms on with an afro and a fur coat, talking about, yo bitch chose me. Yo bitch, yabba dabba do, nigga. I got 3 hoes over here in my car, right? Like, that's what you're used to thinking about when you're talking about pimping. But actually, the NCAA is almost magical with their bullshit, because they're able to mass produce pimping. Like, they have systematic pimping on an aggregate level. But when you really break down what the NCAA does, when you break down the relationship between the NCAA and the Black athlete, and you really look at it at its core, and you understand human nature, you look at it like, oh, that's just pimping. Y'all just got like big manuals and regulations and protocols for your pimping. You got systems behind your pimping, but it ain't nothing but pimping. That's all it is. It's just pimping 101. You don't believe me? Let me break it down for you. Pimps, one thing pimps do is they don't recruit women that have high self-esteem, that are like doing well for themselves, that are highly educated, etc. They tend to prey on people that are downtrodden, powerless, that are just grateful for an opportunity, right? Well, the NCAA does that. The NCAA, the reason that they have rules and laws and procedures that only apply to majority Black populations, as opposed to what they do with their soccer players and their hockey players and their tennis players and their golfers, right? The golfers and the hockey players and the tennis players, which are majority white, have a whole different set of rules from the basketball and the football players. Why is that? What's the difference between the basketball team and the hockey team? Can anybody guess? You know what it is. It's race, right? The basketball team got a whole lot more melanin than the hockey team. Hockey team probably ain't had melanin since the 70s. Basketball team got a new Black guy coming in every week. So they have a different set of rules. Their pimping is different when it comes to the Black athletes, as opposed to when it comes to sports that are majority white. Also with pimps, when you go and you challenge a pimp and you ask a pimp, why are you exploiting these women? What are you, why are you collecting all the money and they're only getting a fraction of it? Well, the pimp is going to do some fast talking, right? You can't be a good pimp if you can't fast talk. If you can't be like, well, look, baby, I got to pay for these furs, and who you think put gas up in the Cadillac, bitch? I mean, shit, it's a whole lot of expenses up in here, and you need to be grateful. You need to be happy that I'm taking care of you, because when I found you, you were just a hole in the street corner, couldn't even buy a chicken sandwich, and now look at you, you eating steak and lobster and shit, and you up here complaining to me, right? Like, and to be a pimp, you got to know how to talk fast like that, right? You got to know how to do it. Well, the NCAA, when they get questioned, which they usually don't answer the questions, whenever major media would come to me to talk about the NCAA, they always would tell me a similar narrative. They would tell me that that they reached out to the NCAA for comment, and the NCAA did not get back to them, or the NCAA would not send a representative. But when they did actually respond, it would be some fast talking pimp shit. It would be like, well, we give athletes opportunities. You look at those commercials. We provide them with an education. Where do you think those commercials came from? Those commercials come from the fact that people are recognizing they're pimping and they're trying to defend themselves, right? And they'll be like, well, the reason we can't pay the athletes is because blah, 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 because and the expenses are too high and it just costs too much and the universities aren't making a profit. And I mean, my God, we're barely getting by. We're like in poverty. I mean, my God, right? They're fast talk pimping. Right? They won't say anything about the multi-million-dollar coaches and all the analysts making millions of dollars and all the corporations making billions of dollars. They're not going to talk about that. They're going to do some fast talk pimping that's going to make you think that their expenses are so high and it would be so complicated and so difficult to find a way to pay the athletes. But they never find an excuse. It's never too complicated for them to find a way to pay the coach $18 million or whatever the hell he got over the last 3 or 4 years. That's not complicated. That's easy. They can solve that problem. But the idea of somehow finding a way to give Zion Williamson and his family just even 1%, just even a piece of that 30 million, 40 million that he probably made in that one game alone, that's just too complicated. We can't figure out a way to do this, right? Pimping, that's pimping, man. That's all it is. You got to be a good pimp. You got to be able to fast talk and talk your way in circles and distract from the issue and bullshit people so that you can continue, so your pimping operation can continue. Again, industrialized pimping, industrial strength pimping. What else? Here's another thing about pimps. Pimps do not want their hoes to be educated or aware. They do not want their hoes to be educated or aware. They want their hoes to be distracted. They want their hoes to be high and drunk. That's why they get them hooked on drugs and shit like that. They want their hoes to be stupid. They don't want a pimp does not create like, a college education program. He doesn't create like a program where, if you one of my hoes, I'm gonna give you a college scholarship. He doesn't do that, right? What a pimp does is a pimp makes sure that his product or his employees, if you want to call it that, that they are as vulnerable as possible. And the way they keep you vulnerable is by keeping you blind, deaf, dumb, and stupid. Well, the NCAA, if you ever want to like go to college and not get a college education, go play a sport. Go play a sport. They're going to put you in the classes that are built for the dumbest people in the world. You're going to be majoring in general studies. Nobody, I've been a college professor for many years and nobody knows what the fuck that is. They're going to have you, like taking classes that fit within your sports schedule. They are not going to encourage you to engage in any form of analysis, thought, rhetoric, or conversation that leads you to question the system that you're in. They don't want you questioning the pimp. They need you to be a good hoe. Let me give you an example. When I used to be at the University of Kentucky and I was working on my master's degree, I used to write these articles and I would explain step by step exactly why athletes should be paid. Now, here's the thing. The University of Kentucky basketball players and the football players used to read my articles. I was really well known on campus. I'm not making this up. Like back then, I didn't have to introduce myself to anyone because everyone knew who I was. I don't know why. It just happened like that. It just was what it was. So all the players were reading this shit, right? And one of the players comes to me. His name was Nazir Muhammad. He ended up playing in the NBA. He was a really smart guy, and I like this guy a lot. And he said to me that well, the coaches don't want us reading your articles. And I said, well, why not? It's a free country. I think they made a new law that says slaves are allowed to read. And he said, well, they don't want your ideas in our head. And I met with another athlete And again, like a runaway slave, they had to sneak and bring him to my office. I kid you not. It was literally like some old Underground Railroad shit. They had to sneak and bring this guy to my office because there was a black coach that said, I want you to come and meet this guy. I want you to meet this guy named Boyce Watkins. And he's kind of outlandish, kind of crazy, which y'all know that I am. But his ideas actually make sense. And I remember talking to this guy, and I remember the meeting being like secretive. Like they didn't want the coaches to know. Like they didn't want, again, they didn't want the pimps to know that their hoes were having secret meetings with somebody who was explaining to them like what the system is really all about. Like the pimp don't want his whole secretly meeting with a social worker, right? He don't want that, right? So basically pimps kind of want, they want the hoes to be distracted. They want them to be ignorant. They want them to have low self-esteem. They want them to be in fear. Iceberg Slim, in a book that he wrote, he said, I listened in the back, Iceberg Slim, notorious pimp, right? He said in a book he wrote, he said, I love it when I listen in the back of my car and I hear my girls giggling. And the reason he loved to hear his girls giggling is because he knew if they were giggling, that they were fat and happy with the situation, that they weren't going to question the situation. So basically, for black people and black men in particular, your pimps love when they listen in the back of the car and they hear you giggling. They love it when they just see you back there cooning and laughing it up and drinking and getting high and drunk and just having a party every other day and not really thinking about the system that's all around you. You know, and in fact, the brainwashing of a college athlete is pretty deep. When I was at University of Kentucky, I remember going into the dorm for the basketball players, and on the walls of the dorm, there was nothing but basketball propaganda everywhere. Like, here are all the former champions. Winners work hard, dedicate everything to the sport. Like literally, almost like some shit you would have seen back in communist Russia or Nazi Germany. Like we really need to mind fuck you the minute you walk in the door so that you will become addicted to the game. That ain't nothing but pimping. That's pimping. Again, now the last part about pimping. Now remember, I told you like so pimps, fast talkers. They prey on the downtrodden. They don't want you to be woke. Pimp does not want his hoes to be woke. But then also remember, the pimp needs the hoes to be in fear. There must always be a backdrop of fear for industrial strength pimping to actually work. So look at the NCAA. Pay attention to the NCAA. What happens if the NCAA finds out that a player gets paid any amount of money under the table? What do? They do what pimps do. They pull back that pimp hand and smack the shit out of you. They take your ass out. There's a million and one ways for an athlete to lose their eligibility from the minute they walk through the door. When I was at Ohio State, there was a situation where a player got offered $50 for his autograph. It was his autograph, and somebody offered him $50 for it. They took him out, massive investigation, massive penalties, massive punishment. A player receives a free bag of groceries from somebody who feels bad for him because he's starving and he's hungry. Oh, you're getting shut down. Your eligibility's gone. We're putting down the pimp hand. Smack, right? Somebody finds out that a player got a little extra money. His mama got a new car because he's going to go to this school and make this school $50 million. The pimps come in, smack, right? The pimp must operate with fear. He must make sure that there are always strong consequences for violating and deviating from the system that has been put in place. This is not by accident. This is deliberate. They punish the athletes to set examples for the other hoes to make sure they understand if you get out of line, this is going to happen to you too. Recently, there was a scandal where there were some coaches who did the horrible thing of giving a little bit of money to the players' families so the players would go pick certain schools and go sign with Adidas after they were done. Well, the FBI got involved. They got the FBI involved because, I mean, my God, it's got to be illegal to pay somebody for their labor. My God, who would do that, right? And the FBI got involved and they started sending people to prison for breaking the rules of the NCAA. So the NCAA is basically an example of industrialized, mega-sized, systematic pimping. And so really, so when you look at, what's going on with Duke, Zion Williamson, also you can connect it to the Michael Avenatti situation. Michael Avenatti is the guy who was the attorney for the R. Kelly accusers. He's also work partner with Mark Garagos, who represented Colin Kaepernick, and they went to go shake down Nike. And they allegedly, the alleged Nike shakedown basically came from them, from them telling Nike, look, we have evidence that you're paying athletes, and my God, you're going to get in trouble for this. So Michael Avenatti said, give me 25 million and I'll represent you and make this go away, right? Well, that shakedown is going to result in Michael Avenatti going to prison. He's also facing some bank fraud charges and stuff like that. So Michael Avenatti may go to prison for this. Mark Garagos may get in some trouble from this because Mark Garagos is listed as a co-conspirator. So at the end of the day, it becomes this shit show on top of a shit show, and it's very, very disturbing. It's very, very racial, and we know it's extremely unfair. I believe the system is going to change when somebody files major lawsuits. I've heard about some Black attorneys who are working to file a suit against the NCAA for collusion, an antitrust lawsuit, and I believe that's what's going to take them down. And by the way, I just saw that all the charges were dropped against Jussie Smollett, so it looks like Jussie gets to go. I don't know how that went down. I'll go take a look, but it looks like that thing is over. I'll talk about that a little bit later. I've been talking about this for a while, so if you want my opinion on Jussie Smollett, I'll just do a separate conversation about that because this was going on for way too long, and longer than I expected. So do me a favor before we bounce out. Please hit the thumbs up button before you go. Please hit the thumbs up button. Vanita asked, now that Avenatti's brought up on fraud, how will this affect Robert Kelly's case? It's going to affect that one situation with the victims that are being represented by him, but I don't think it's going to affect the whole entirety of R. Kelly's situation, because R. Kelly has done a whole lot of bad stuff over a long period of time, and I think all that's catching up with him now. Unfortunately, R. Kelly, not only did he do some things that I believe were illegal, but he did those things on a consistent basis. And there's just no way around that. So you're not going to hear me defending R. Kelly in that regard. I'll defend his right to fairness and to truth, but that's as far as I go. I don't defend him as a human being as a human being. I think he needs therapy, but I also think he needs some penalty for what he's done, because I do believe he's done some bad things in his life. So that's my opinion on R. Kelly, if you want to know. So hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button. Also, if you want to sign up for our Black Money 101 class, please feel free to go to blackmoney101.com. I think you're going to like it. I know you're going to like it. And in fact, if you want your kids to also learn about wealth, we have a Black Business School for children. You can go to blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. That's blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com. And also this shirt. Some of you guys are asking about this shirt. Are you Black Enough? Well, Black Enough is our social media platform that we created so that when Facebook finally kicks me off forever, which I know at some point is going to happen because they ban me every week because I said something that was too Black, we went ahead and created Black Enough as our own social media platform, which is where you would see me doing most of my social media, even now, but especially, if Facebook bans me again. So feel free to go to blackenough.com. It's spelled right here, BLAGGENUF.com, and sign up. And I think you're going to like it a lot. And we'll never ban you unless you're beating up or attacking another Black person extensively, at which point we'll probably have a talk with you about that. So anyway, Drew says you're a breath of fresh air. Well, thank you. You're a breath of fresh air too. Without you, I'm nothing. Without you, I wouldn't have a chance to speak to the public. So I want to say thank you for supporting intelligent Black media. And if you want to be a patron of the platform, help us grow. We give you free stuff in exchange for your patronage. We don't take donations. We only do trades. So we'd love to trade with you and offer you something that has 10 times more value than your donation, or not even donation. You can't call it a donation, but whatever it is, I don't want to call it, because it's not a donation. I believe trade is better than charity. So if you'd like to support the platform in exchange for the things that we can offer you, please go to intelligentblackpeople.com. That's intelligentblackpeople.com. So I'm out of here, guys. Have a good day, and thank you for listening. This was real. It was fun. It was so Black. I'll talk to you guys later.